how they're going to deal with it. The problem is they also have...
Is this leftover evil or is this new evil?
Leftover, but it's being looked into by new.
Uh-huh. Well, anyone that is interested in getting to the bottom of things knows that there's been a lot of activity in Antarctica the last few years. Hell, if you just watch the news, you'd see it's been reported that there's been a lot of politicians that have gone down there to visit. And for what? You know? Well, people that are watching these alternative broadcasts know because they've uncovered some ancient alien bases that are just humongous, and apparently you go down and then some of them are like 60 acres large with multiple levels and
under the ice.
Yes, way under the ice. And I'm just going to talk for a second about it. They have an energy source that they haven't even figured out where it comes from. That is keeping the spaces warm and lit. Ambient light. We have light bulbs for creating this. These places have ambient light. They don't know where it's coming from. So that's some of the bits that have gotten out into been getting talked about.
This is because of a different type of technology to establish light. You have a technology based largely on electronics produced by fossil fuels.
Yes.
The technology you were just describing doesn't use fossil fuels and uses natural ley lines of the planet as well as the
inexhaustible source.
Well, yes, but also getting an arrangement for it by using proper, well, we'll go back with sacred geometric construction, call it that. Let me tell you too that there's not a whole lot of difference between applied sacred geometry and music.
I love music.
And
well, that makes sense to me.
If your people...
Music is very mathematical, and it's very spiritual in its structure. Good music anyway.
That's where science and spirituality meet.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the way that creation started and continues to start all the time. You see, creation is restarting every microsecond.
Yeah.
It didn't stop.
Right.
A lot of your religions seem to say that there was a pathetic God who was really looking forward to a weekend, evidently. And, had limitations on what he could do.
Oh, the impotence of a creator that needs a day off.
Definitely not.
Needs to run away from his creation. So, well, that's fascinating stuff. So, let me ask you this: when you talk about this kind of like veiled negativity that's existing down there, that makes me. What ran through my mind was There's the term that we call it, the colloquialism of black goo. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say black goo?
There are a lot of things that can meet that description.
Okay, what that term means in our mainstream is there is an oil-like substance that has been discovered in certain parts of the planet, and it has an evil consciousness. Some of these dark people have been searching after it and using it and what have you, and it has really wild properties to it. For instance, if you separate it out into different, amounts of itself,
Even psychoreactive properties.
it tries to reconnect with itself. It's believed to be highly conscious, but in a very negative way.
Yes.
And it can really, screw somebody's, head up.
The people that I've been telling you about who are
Yes.
researching this, so to speak, they don't need to research it, they already know it.
Yeah.
The troops, I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
who are looking into this in Antarctica at this time.
Oh, so that's
My
okay.
troops.
I'm
My
on the
troops.
right track. This is a factor down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's an ancient factor that,
There's been wars over this. There was, I think, at the Falkland Islands, which was a weird, stupid war.
any war stupid.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that was particularly strange. Nobody knew really what the hell that was about. It was, I mean, there's nobody to go to war with there to speak of. But anyway, it was a territory kind of skirmish. But I read a few years ago that was about, black goo and about who was going to be in control of the black goo that was found there. I've heard that the Gulf oil spill that happened so many years ago, and that was terrible, and how long that went on, and why people weren't allowed to help in the cleanup, and why they had the military down there doing the cleanup. That was actually black goo. It wasn't your normal oil coming out of the ground.
That I can't speak on, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. Since we're talking about a few different things.
But you'll notice that I didn't say I didn't know.
Oh.
I said I can't speak on it.
Oh. Thank you for that. I did have the impression that you didn't know.
I want to shift
So
the
you don't know.
topic back
Okay.
to the concept of what you call atomics and subatomics and
Sure.
astrophysics. Stop seeing them as separate.
All the sciences, you mean?
I'm saying that there's no difference between what we've discussed this evening in terms of atomic physics and astrophysics. At the heart of every star there's a black hole.
Right.
And various energy forms keeping the outer edge of that star pushing outwards and not collapsing in on itself all at once.
Yeah.
But when those energy forms start to subside, then the star begins to collapse, and then it expands and then collapses further.
Well, let me ask you this. A lot of people I've heard say that the basic model we have for the stars, especially our star, the sun,
So,
what is expressed in our, everyday scientific, I think they say it is a fusion reactor, if I'm correct. I forget, but
yes.
a lot of people say that's actually improper model. That's not true.
It's not.
How does it work?
You have, again, a black hole with energy systems around it, feeding into it and yet shielding it somewhat.
So that's a big black hole at the center of the sun.
Actually, smaller than your moon. Black holes don't need to be very big to be powerful.
Right. Well, the moon's pretty big. I mean,
Compared to the sun, it's nothing.
Well, yeah, but
Okay. You have a massive, again, wavelength interaction going on within every star, yours included, that causes what seems to be an explosion outward, what you would refer to as a fusion reaction. It's more of a fission reaction than a fusion reaction.
so does that mean it's not combusting?
It's expanding.
But I mean, so things are not being expended. They're not being like burned
No.
away.
They're being rerouted, they're being recombined. So what you have is a fusion reaction and a fission reaction. The fission reaction is helping to cause the fusion that's going on. There is a fusion reaction, but it's not what drives the star.
Right.
Black hole drives the star.
Okay.
The fission reaction is the reaction to the black hole surrounding it.
So everything that we see when we look at the sun or any star could go on virtually forever if the black hole like wanted it to. You're saying, it sounds like you're saying the black hole is what changes, and then the star goes into these different, changes. It either turns into a red dwarf, or these various different configurations that stars go to when
Right.
when they die.
And look at the center of your galaxy. Massive black hole.
Okay, so
Why doesn't your galaxy collapse in all at once? Because there's so much matter moving so quickly that there's no way it can collapse in all at once. And there are realms around even that black hole that help protect the rest of the real estate, so to speak, from being flushed down the toilet.
I think they believe, I've heard some say that they think that sometimes black holes, and I don't know that they even have an idea of how this happens, but tell me if this is correct at all, that sometimes black holes stop working. They stop pulling in, matter. They go like in cycles. Is that true?
Yeah, they go dormant for a while.
Yes. So that's true.
That is true.
And what? So what? What changes with a black hole? Is it just because intrinsically they have a consciousness and they make their own decision, of what to do, or
You could put it that way. Also, the fact that when they're satiated, they tend to.
So it is like a feeding kind of thing.
Yes.
Oh, that's a trip. That's wild. Because all that they take in, doesn't that get shunted out into another alternate universe?
In some cases, it gets shunted back out into this universe, recombined in different forms of matter. In other cases, yes, it does get shunted out to another location in the universe or into another dimensional universe.
So is that like they have those pulsars?
Mm-hmm.
That they have those powerful streams of energy that are coming out,
Right.
like an axis.
Something like that.
Uh-huh. And all this stuff can be very violent. It's kind of good that we live out on the outskirts of our universe. I mean, of
Your galaxy?
of our galaxy, because from what I understand, the center areas of galaxies, like the first, from the center to like almost a halfway out, are pretty violent places.
Yeah, they can be. But then it can also happen where you're located too. You see, one star here, another star here, even though it seems like, and by your standards, there are tens of thousands, if not even millions of light years distance, what happens on one star can influence another star far distant from it.
That's so wild, yeah.
Now, you think, oh, well, that's plasma and it takes a long time to trek from point A to B, even at the speed of light. Not necessarily.
And is that because they at some point in time they shared the same atomic material? Because our sciences know that if you take separate various parts of matter from itself, that they have like this twin relationship. What happens to one happens to the other.
Your famous scientist who was... He is to be honored, but he was in some...
Einstein?
Yes. It was in some ways more incorrect than correct.
Yeah.
But at least he got you thinking, and this was good.
Yeah. I think personally he knew he wasn't right about a lot of stuff, but that's...
Oh, he perhaps wondered. But that's what keeps a good scientist going.
Sure.
he referred to it as magical action at a distance.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I had a feeling I couldn't think of the words. Yes, yeah.
It can be something like that, but also the fact that to make a connection between point A and point B,
Yeah.
you don't have to have tons of energy focused at one point to make a wormhole. It actually can be done a lot more simplistic and a lot easier than that. I know that your present scientists say, oh, to make a wormhole, you
Yes.
have to have so many stars compressed together,
Yes.
and they're wrong. Do something like that, you're going to make a massive black hole that will annihilate part of your galaxy.
Yeah.
But there are ways to make wormholes that are like, the best way I can explain it is eddies and currents of water.
Okay.
Because you see, space again is not a vacuum. Now, if you tried to breathe in it, you couldn't.
Yeah.
But it's full of various forms of energy.
Right.
And as creation happens, there is no such thing as empty space.
So, for instance, if we could see different spectrums, the electromagnetic spectrum is vast, and we only exist, we only experience, I should say, a small sliver of that. So, if we could experience a different sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, for instance, then probably if you're looking in one area of it, for instance, space might be completely lit up, right?
Possibly, yes. In fact, most of space would be. If you could actually see.
As opposed to dark, yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
It would be a misty experience, or it would be very bright in many areas too.
Oh gosh, I just had a question for you about something you were talking about, and because I was focused on what you were saying, I forgot my question now. Oh damn it! What was it? It's a good question too. That's all right. So you're telling us. So how does? I know this ties in to our, enlightenment, and part of why you're talking about this is because this is helpful for us to start imagining these things. Could you be, a little more direct about that? How people being a little more scientific and starting to envision these things is going to help them, to awaken. I mean, I believe it's true.
The fact is that there are scientists who, with some outside help, already have envisioned this, and this is part of a space corps that already exists. And I don't mean never a straight answer.
Well, aren't they're connected to it? NASA's connected to it, aren't they?
Behind the scenes to some degree, but NASA is more of a...
Window dressing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember my question. The Hadron Collider. You must be familiar.
Yes.
Now, I heard that in recently they shut it down for a few years. Now, is that because they found they were doing some dangerous shit? Did the good guys tell them to stop doing this? Because some people believe they're trying to open up a black hole, create a black hole that would literally allow demons to come through. And as far-fetched as that sounds, because we like to think of scientists as being not involved with demons, but I'll tell you what, anyone that knows much about that, when they opened up, they had a very demonic opening. There was lots of devilish symbolism. In fact, they have I forget what it is, but one of their statues that's outside the place is very demonic. Hell, the church has one of the Church of Rome. I can't think of her name, but everyone knows what I say if I say the Church of Rome.
You're talking about the Vatican?
The Vatican has one of the largest telescopes, right? And they named it Lucifer. Come on.
Because it uses light. Lose light.
Yeah, but still, I mean, if they wanted to, if they wanted to, at least for appearance's sake, show people that they're on the up and up, that should be the last thing they should name something.
I can agree with that, but I'll tell you what, that's situation with the Vatican is something that humans are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I didn't mean to segue to that.
But when it comes to the connection there, what they were actually trying to do in CERN was to find a way to open a portal between dimensions. And a portal that either humans could go through and get all types of different types of engineering and scientific information bordering on the metaphysical, to possibly inviting something to come in to give that information to humanity. Now, there are those.
So wait, are you saying that they're doing this innocently, or that the people behind the scenes have a dark agenda?
I'm saying the people behind the scenes had an agenda. I'm not saying it was dark or light.
Yeah. I'd like to know, because, I haven't made my mind up. And a lot of people, when they talk about CERN, and like I say, there's a lot of surface, things to see on the surface about what goes on there, and, visualization and what have you, to induce one to think that it's a dark. The people behind the scenes there are dark.
Some are.
Okay.
And some of the bankers for it are.
Right.
But again, it's what can we get out of this?
Well, if a lot of the people are dark, then the tool is going to be used, primarily for dark, things.
It can also be a matter of that the dark. No, I won't use that term. The dark elite.
Yeah.
Knew they would be on the skids very soon, and they were looking for a way to get extra help. That has not panned out for them.
Wait, I'm a little confused. What action did they do that to in their mind would help get them help? What?
They believe that if they could open up a doorway between this dimension and another, whether light or dark, the information coming through could be used to do a one-upsmanship, I think you call it.
Or the demons coming through.
Or the demons coming through, if possible. Okay. But let me tell you something. There was not too long ago in your own history where people viewed electricity as being demonic.
No, I understand. It's,
It was considered to be a tool of the devil, or the devil itself.
Yeah.
Electricity.
Well, you get into metaphysics and philosophy. There's good reason, not to get into it, but I understand how, there's whole religions and people, like the Mennonites, for instance, that live without modern technology. There's a lot of good reason behind the idea that technology is devilish, in so much as it gets people hooked on something that does what intrinsically they could do themselves, really and truly. Telephones. We are so dependent on our telephones, and yet, really and truthfully, if people knew the truth, they could communicate
without them.
You see what I'm saying? So I understand. Technology, is a double-edged sword, and so I understand why there's people that look down on it.
You're an inventive race. You're going to come up with your tools until the time comes when you find either a better tool or that you don't need the tools.
Yeah.
We know this about you.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are as inventive as you are is...
Yeah. If for anything, we're clever.
Yeah, very.
And quick.
That too.
I love being both myself. I couldn't. I don't know how slow people do it.
Well, you look at the fact that the concept of anti-gravity was something of Buck Rogers.
Uh-huh.
It was science fiction.
Yeah,
It would never happen. Not for maybe a couple hundred years or more.
Ironically, when Buck Rogers came out, they already knew about it.
They may have known about it, they didn't know how to do it.
No.
That came about in the early 1920s, and that came from a mediumistic source.
What did, exactly?
Anti-gravity.
The knowledge of how to do it?
Yes.
Well, I thought Buck Rogers came out in the 50s.
No, he's actually before, but...
Did we have... We didn't have motion pictures back in the 20s, did we?
No, but you had stories.
Yeah, well, they call them the talkies, right? Movies without sound.
Well, you also had, well, I think you call them something like dime novels, but they were less than a dime.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
At any rate, the issue is that you look at a broken and financially broke nation state like Germany.
Uh-huh. You're talking about World War I or something, too?
After the war. You had a number of metaphysical groups.
Yes. The Tool Society.
And the Dark Sun Society and the Vril Society.
Yes.
Vril was considered to be a dark force, not dark as evil, dark and unknown.
Okay.
Life force of some kind. There was a being from another dimensional realm, not ours, who communicated with a medium.
Yeah.
She was able to take the communications, draw the plans, and the engineers who were handy in that group built it, and it worked.
Yeah, I remember reading about that a long time ago.
To go from that to making another class of, to use a generic term, flying saucer.
Yes.
And then to go from there to even bases in space. By the very late 1930s.
Holy crap, they had bases in space in the 1930s? Oh my god, that's news to me.
Some of them were failing miserably, but they at least attempted.
The Germans we're talking about?
Yes.
Wow.
It was...
Wow.
You say, how could a secret like that be kept a secret, but then your own government kept the atomic bomb a secret until the very first explosion in,
yeah.
I believe, what did you call it, White Sands?
Yeah, and actually
Trinity.
A lot of people that worked on it, I think there are like 5,000 people that worked on it. I think they're in Tennessee.
That was simply the uranium processing plant.
Some small town, but...
That was only one part of it.
Well, sure, yeah.
But out at the
that's
Trinity,
another way they do that. They compartmentalize this stuff. So, a lot of people just know, bits and pieces. They don't know the whole story.
to go from anti-gravity being the stuff of science fiction, fantasy.